Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Uh, I already see people from four continents on the list. So thank you so much for joining. Today is a very special episode 10 of CARPL's Unboxing AI webinar series. We are joined by my friend, mentor, investor, or truster, if there is such a word, Alok Goyal. Before that, for those of you who may not know, CARPL is an enterprise imaging AI platform. We have our own category now. We are part of almost, becoming part of many CMIOs stack. And yeah, we essentially connect developers of AI with healthcare providers, making radiologists faster and better, boosting productivity and enhancing clinical outcomes in the process. Uh, and today we have Alok with us. Alok is a partner at Stellaris Venture Partners. Stellaris is, uh, if not then one of the leading early stage enterprise software investors this side of the world. Thank you, Alok, for joining today. It means the world.
No,
And
thank you. Thank you for having me. And I think the background that you have said about me, I can now only disappoint people from where I am. So
I haven't even started, Alok. I haven't even started. I was just talking about the firm, not you. So, so as is typical in such webinars, I will give a brief intro to those of you who have joined. I see a lot of my colleagues also have joined today. So Alok, is what can I even say? In fact, I think I met Alok almost exactly 13 months ago, and they ended up investing in us really, really fast. Alok was, um, I think, meeting one, and I think Sayantan had kind of orchestrated a bunch of things. And first meeting onwards, I think from our side, it was love at first sight. And we went on, and eventually Stellaris ended up investing in us. But Alok primarily focuses on investments in SaaS, dev, infra, clean tech. I have a full bio here. And of course, many of us know, Alok, that you started your VC journey at Helion Ventures, where essentially you, I think, are one of the pioneers of this whole build in India for the world enterprise software movement. And prior to that, you led SAP India as their chief operating officer and have been associated with SAP since 2004, fairly recent, in various leadership roles across the world. And Alok's also worked at Siebel Systems, McKenna, McKinsey, Cadence. An MBA from INSEAD, a MS in computer science from UT Austin, and then of course a BTech in computer science across the road from IIT Delhi. So and of course I know that, Alok, one of the things very close to you that you like talking about is your association with I hope I say it right, CAPE, which is a CAPED, which is an organization that combats cervical cancer. We have mutual friends there as well. And then, of course, Alok is also one of the forces behind Plaksha. Um, Apart from that, I think everybody will get that sense. Alok is just a very nice person, people. so, so yeah, so a fun journey with you, Alok. But as is also customary in these webinars, and I would love to first start off by, can you please describe what it is that you do, as if you were telling a 5-year-old?
well, again, first of all, Vidur, thank you for having me here. Thank you for such a kind intro. And thank you also for letting us be part of the Carpel journey. So we've had nothing but an incredible amount of fun and respect for what you guys have done, at least what we have learned over the last year. So how do you describe it to a 5-year-old? Boy, that's a tough one. Um, um, I remember when I was in McKinsey and people will ask, my relatives also will ask, what do you do? I didn't know how to describe. I think we used to make charts at that point in time. But I guess simplest way is that we partner with companies at a very young stage, and hopefully as they grow larger, we can be part of that journey. But jokes apart, I mean, I'm part of Stellaris, which is a venture capital fund. We are early stage investors. Seed Series A is where we typically end up partnering with companies. Um, uh, I personally focus on enterprise software as a space. That's the only thing I've done in my career in different forms and shapes. And I'm really excited by the idea of software companies being built out of India, which become global market leaders. And I'm looking forward to CARPL being one of those two.
Thank you, Alok, but I bet no 5-year-old can understand that. I would have honestly, I would have just gone with, we build things that you will see when you are an adult,
Okay.
or something like that. Well, Alok, Stellaris is kind of an industry agnostic fund, right? You guys invest all across various industries, sectors in the software space. Um, and I know this is a loaded question, and I hope you don't think about it a lot. But uh, why? Like, you could give your hard earned money, your LP's hard earned money to any sector on the planet. Why choose our extremely complicated and uh, difficult, if I may say so, sector of radiology, and then within that AI, and then within that a platform, right? And honestly, I myself am curious to know if your thoughts have changed over the past 1 year.
So, whether some again personal history here first. My I actually didn't even know about radiology as a space until my mother had cancer, and this was back in 2007. Is when actually anybody in our family had the first MRI, and that's when I wouldn't say that my fascination came, because that was not a great situation to be in, but since then, I think one realizes how important, first of all, or how mission critical radiology is to healthcare and how mission critical healthcare is to humankind, right? And if I may put that in the perspective of a venture capitalist, I guess we learned during the discussions with you early on that there are 4 billion scans that are done every year. And we as humans are only getting older. I believe that diagnostics is going to only going to become bigger and bigger. What is also true is that the notion of AI in healthcare has been steadily growing. What I thought was a thought, I think with just growth in capabilities on AI, and by the way, I used to write models back in 91, 92. Never realized that computational power, the amount of data, the sophistication of models will reach a point where we can do what we do today. But I think all of those have.
Alok, we are on a side note, we are looking for a research engineer.
Yeah, oh, sure. And I'm looking for a job as well, by the way. So, but I think the fact that AI will transform radiology, we have no doubt whatsoever in our mind, right? I think what makes when we started our discussions with you, what we are figuring out, or what we figured out at that point in time, is that it's a very unique problem to be solved. I think, again, the idea of AI in radiology is not new. But the challenge is that when you look at multiple kinds of scans, there is mammograms, there's PET scans, MRI scans, ultrasounds, X-rays, etc. You look at different body parts. The fact that for each combination therein, there can be 30 to 50 findings. Today, for a chest X-ray, there could be, I don't know, pneumonia, there can be lung cancer, there can be COVID. Each finding, because it is mission critical, actually requires a regulatory approval.
Yeah.
And what that means is that if I'm a hospital, I'm actually bombarded with a combinatorial explosion now. Imagine I have a GE X-ray machine or a Siemens machine or whatever it might be. How many different body parts can I scan, how many findings there are possible, how many radiology AI software am I going to connect to, right? And that actually, that fact by itself was actually pretty alarming or amazing for us. And therefore, the fact that one needs some solution, which I think at least at that point I was articulating as a Zapier of radiology or whatever you may call it, but something that can connect to multiple kinds of scan generating machines, something that can connect to different software that radiologists use, which I guess I learned are called PACS. I didn't know that before that phrase. And of course, integrates with or connects with the hundreds of now multiple algorithms that are coming out. And I think many more will come out in future. And with the barriers to creation of new AI software even coming down, we feel more and more will happen. Someone who can actually bring it all together in a single box, and of course, it's a virtual box that I'm thinking of. At least we have no doubt whatsoever whether that is a must-have. Whether CARPL wins that race or somebody else wins that race tomorrow, time will tell. But at least that thesis on why this is a must-have in the radiology AI space, at least we have no doubt whatsoever. I also believe that there are very natural network effects of this business, and that's what made it exciting. And the fact that in a short amount of time, you are able to integrate with the number of solutions that you have, but more importantly, with the kind of customers you are able to penetrate, at least I think blew away our mind, and that's the reason we wanted to be your partners. And again, we are happy being part of this ride together.
But Alok, so thank you for that. And there is also a sales position open. but, but the one thing that as we uh, as I reflect on conversations with investors and generally amongst the ecosystem also, because we think of ourselves as an ecosystem enabler essentially, right? A lot of AI companies face this whole challenge of long sales cycles, like we are selling to the world's, maybe slowest organizations, right? Large health systems, been around for 100 plus years, we're used to doing things a certain way, RFPs, RFIs, that whole world. Uh, how do you, as an early stage investor, like rationalize that perceived downside of this industry? And I'm genuinely curious on this.
Actually, whether I don't perceive that as a downside.
Okay.
I think it's a manifestation of the mission criticalness or the value,
Hmm.
but also a manifestation of the fact that anything, if you look at least I believe that. So, bottom line, I think of it as a feature rather than a bug, first of all.
Interesting.
And
Very interesting.
the reason I think of this as a feature is that, as I said, high value, multiple stakeholders. But at the same time, I think that this kind of a feature also leads to high dollars.
Hmm.
And I believe that there is lower price sensitivity to a solution like this, but there is a high barrier to adoption. I also believe, Vidur, that these kinds of enterprise cycles, sales cycles, while they feel tough, but they also build a moat.
Yep.
You need the right kinds of references,
Yep.
right? But imagine that once you have 20 references, 50 references, 100 references, that also makes it incredibly hard for anybody else to come and play in that market. So while bootstrapping such businesses is very hard, I also believe that these are businesses where you build very strong moats.
Hmm.
It allows you to be price leaders as opposed to price takers in the future. But yes, bootstrapping these businesses is also very hard because of that feature.
I see. Before I proceed to everyone who has joined, please feel free to ask any questions. I can see some folks from the AI ecosystem there as well. So feel free to shoot whatever thoughts you have. We are going to prioritize questions over our conversation. So use the Q&A, use the chat, whatever, WhatsApp me, anything works. So Alok, like there is also this whole aspect of, uh, maybe less so today, uh, although this whole aspect of, AI not being deterministic,
Yeah.
and how does a group of people, doctors, and in other industries as well, how do folks, uh, how do you think about that whole side of things, right? Where an industry that has been typically very deterministic, very academic, now coming into this whole probabilistic world, right? And the way I describe it for folks who are listening, and I would love your thoughts on whether this description is even correct, is 1 plus 1 is 1.9 with 95% confidence, right? Something like that. So as opposed to 1 plus 1 is 2, right? Which is the world we are kind of used to. So was that ever a factor? Is that a factor as you look at AI companies in other domains? How do you think about that?
So whether I'm going to opine on both healthcare here and outside of it as well, and I'll begin with an anecdote here that when you introduced me, you talked about an NGO that I'm part of, which is in cervical cancer uh, prevention, and we do a lot of screenings, and we have some very high quality doctors who are part of that. And for many years, I've been arguing as to how technology can be used, actually how AI can be used to reduce the turnaround time as well as the cost of the screenings that we do. And it's been virtually impossible to convince doctors to use. Why? Because of that non-deterministic nature, they believe that AI is too unreliable to be used in such a thing. Few weeks back, same set of people, I was at an event, and the same set of doctors were telling me as to why we should be using technology, why we should be using AI. And I was quite pleasantly surprised whether what a massive turnaround it has been on this front. I think that multiple things are happening. People are part of it. I just attribute to the Chat GPT moment. Honestly, I think that nobody on earth today is questioning whether AI can do something. I think people are in that mode where they believe that AI will do things. Right.
Yeah.
That being said, you're right that AI is non-deterministic. It cannot be 100% correct, and you do need human overrides and human backups. And therefore, I think of it as an aid or an augmentation to humans. I don't see that as a replacement, right? Um, so the fact that, I mean, if I think of, again, I'm going to think of healthcare here. The fact that patients, when their scans are taken, as opposed to their results coming in a few days, if I can get a result in an hour or even faster, right? Why would I not want to use this? If I
Yeah.
can prioritize my patients based on this, why would I not want to do this? And I'm seeing that across the board. But in the enterprise world, see, this is not the consumer world where you're saying, recommend the next 5 movies to me. And yes, I like 3 of them. I don't like 2 of them. Big deal, right? That's not the case, right? You are making judgment on somebody's course of treatment. And that's true for any enterprise application by and large, that you can't afford to be wrong. And therefore, I think AI, when it's designed to be an augmentation to humans, as opposed to taking humans out of the process, I think that former is where actually I see at least
Yeah.
the next half a decade, if not more. I don't want to prognosticate beyond that, but that's how I see AI systems being used.
Funny story, Alok, on the Chat GPT moment. So, I one day went to my dad. I asked him, and for those of you who don't know, my dad is like this god level radiologist here in India, and like whatever. So I went to him and I was like, Dad, have you used Chat GPT or Gemini or one of these things? He was like, No, not yet. I was like, Oh, here's Gemini. Ask any question. And he asked Gemini, what is a 7 Tesla MRI, right? And basically an MRI machine with a 7 Tesla field strength. So Gemini says a 7 Tesla MRI is an MRI machine that is used for research purposes. I was so excited. And it has a field strength that is 7 times the field strength of a 1.5 Tesla MRI. And I was like, so I lost my dad that day from a chat GPT LLM perspective. So let's go to some of the questions, Alok, and also to all the attendees. Alok has is kind enough to stick on for a few minutes beyond our half an hour timeline that I typically try to adhere to. So let's start with Ayush. So Alok, Ayush asks, what specific factors do you consider when deciding to invest in a company? So a more general
Yeah, so
question.
Ayush, we are very early stage investors. We are not people who are looking at spreadsheets while making decisions. Usually we come in very, very early. Um, Sometimes there is not even a product, sometimes there is a product, sometimes there is early revenue. Usually that's when we come in to partner with people. We take a relatively simplistic view of the world. We are trying to imagine the world 5 to 10 years from now and saying, if this is the direction in which the world progresses, is there a strong fitment for this concept or not? And number two, at this stage, a bulk of our investment thesis is driven around the founder, because we find that the even the problem that the startup is trying to solve sometimes goes through certain pivots and changes, let alone the business model to try and solve that problem or make money in that space. So we are highly, highly focused, therefore, on the founders, and that's where we take our bet. I know
So
it's a very
Ayush,
simplistic answer, but that's the reality of what we do.
so this is Ayush. He's a front end engineer at our team. And
Okay.
so Ayush, you can tell everyone what Alok just said. Next we have somebody who doesn't want to disclose who they are, and we respect that. Could you share any exciting digital healthcare company or application that you came across while venturing that common folks are not aware of? Very interesting.
So, while we have come across quite a few in healthcare also, I'm actually going to give an example which is less to do with what we have evaluated, but a technology in healthcare that at least I'm both fascinated of and scared by. And that's the entire direction of brain implants. I mean, in full disclosure, I have uh, a nephew whose wife actually has been working in the space of brain implants in the US over the last decade. And I keep checking with her every year where this is going. And she keeps telling me that you can tap into 10 neurons, now you can tap into 100 neurons. And it's a classical Moore's law at play here. And you can do a read and write on these neurons. And basically, imagine now, if Moore's law continues at the pace it is expected to, soon enough, each of us will, or theoretically can have a chip in our brain, which is connected to Wi-Fi. And tomorrow we can figure out as to what part of what we learn from the world, should we store in our storage or should we store in the cloud? And what part of the compute do we do ourselves versus what happens by the cloud? As I said, I find it both fascinating and dangerous, but uh, is a space that I'm actually intently watching as it unfolds. But on a different note, I remember that when I got admission into IT, and this is back in 1988, at that point, I think the fascinating field to be in was computer science. Actually, a lot of people who ask me what they should do tomorrow, I think that the intersection of computing and biology is the most exciting area over the next 3 to 4 decades, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, Alok, please let us know when you see the Matrix happen. Because my view on Neuralink and stuff like that is precisely that I don't know, again, good or bad, we don't know, but we will all soon be in the Matrix.
Yeah,
uh, so then next is Arjun. Arjun from my team.
yeah.
Slightly more personal or philosophical question. What impact do you hope to have through your work in venture capital? and what legacy do you want to eventually leave behind? And obviously, how does CARPL fit into these in the grand scheme of things?
Boy, that's a tough question, Arjun. I wish you had warned me that these kinds of questions are going to come in the discussion today. But Arjun, I'll try to give you as honest an answer as I can. I am, I have made a few um, unsuccessful, half-baked attempt at being an entrepreneur. Have always been very fascinated by the idea. I do believe that entrepreneurs are actually very special people. You know, we all dream, but I think it takes very special people to pursue their dreams, even when the whole world tells you why you should not actually be doing it. Um, I know it sort of sounds like an act of stupidity, but I think that foolishness is required to pursue your dreams. And I think that passion is what entrepreneurs bring to the table. And while I know I could not be one myself, but I think being in venture capital allows me to do the next best thing is to watch these journeys from as close a vantage point as is possible, and to a certain degree also contribute to some of those dreams getting realized. And I'm not looking for any legacy. I'm actually not a legacy person, to borrow from Rahul Dravid recently. I think as long as I feel that I was part of a few of those journeys that made a difference to those founders, actually, that's all I care about.
Wow, that is super amazing. Although, Alok, for what it's worth, starting Stellaris, I'm sure, is an entrepreneurial journey, and I'm sure you have the same nightmares as as the rest of us.
That's
Maybe,
true.
but maybe you're just not allowed to, show them as much as we do. No, thank you for that question, Arjun, and thank you for the very candid answer, Alok. Next, we have a question in the chat. From Chad. In fact, we have two questions. So Chad asks, what are you seeing as the highest ROI AI-enabled use cases and solutions currently deployed in radiology clinical practice? Any standouts emerging? I guess I'm happy to uh, take that, Alok.
Actually,
I don't know if you were,
you are in a better position to take that
yeah.
question than I am, actually.
So Chad, there is this amazing company called an amazing product called Kios. We are seeing the highest ROI. Alok Chad is the founder of a company called Chaos Medical. They make
Oh,
ultrasound. They make ultrasound based AI. So yes, you can smile, Chad. So no. So essentially, Chad, what we are seeing as highest ROI, and then I'll not give a long answer because maybe it's a little parallel. We can connect offline. We are seeing the highest ROI when we run multiple AI systems that do different things together simultaneously, such that at least half of the workload that a radiologist does is affected by AI in one way or another. So that's where we are seeing. So it's essentially multiple small incremental ROIs from different use cases grouping together to give you that one exponential ROI kicker. Uh, so happy to go offline chat on that and go deeper. Coming back to wow, they're just coming and coming. Alok, it's all up to you how much
no,
time
no,
you
please
have.
go ahead.
So Aditya handles regulatory at CARPL. He asks, in your opinion, what sets CARPL apart from? So I will rephrase the question. I'll say, is there anything that sets CARPL apart from other enterprise applications that you see out there in maybe a non-healthcare setting as well?
Actually, whether I'll give an answer, which I have said a lot of times internally within our own team, and I have made this statement externally to a lot of people as well, that it's not easy to be very lucky in life. But for those of you who are attending this webinar and are CARPL employees, I think that rarely have I seen a company being at the right place at the right time. And I do think it's very difficult, right? You can go back to examples of the Newton notepad that Apple created and ended up being too early. And there are lots of examples of being too late in life. I think for such a mission critical use case, being in the right place at the right time is very hard. And so you should consider yourself lucky. and I'm sure that this team will make the most of it as well. But that's what I like. I think it's very hard to compare applications across different domains.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. That's very, you've said it to us also many times. We tend to not believe it, but, but yes. So next is, again, Arjun, if Chat GPT was a tipping point, what do you think the next juncture will be? And where will this spark originate from? I guess brain chips.
Very difficult to say, Arjun. Very difficult to say. I think the Chat GPT moment is the beginning of the tipping point for AI as it stands today. I think we'll just see a lot of evolution of this space. If you look at the number of major announcements that happen every month in terms of major model innovations, every month we hear 20 to 30 such announcements these days. So I feel that this moment that we are calling the Chat GPT moment is not was a single day or whatever. I feel we are still going through that Chat GPT moment. The next one, actually, to be honest, I don't know.
Got it. No, if only you know, please again let us know.
Exactly.
Akshay Kumar has a question. This is very interesting. So,
Yeah.
when you're considering an investment into an AI first company or an AI company, how important is explainability and transparency of the AI itself to you as an investor? Hello.
So Akshay, at its core, I'm not a technologist. I'm not the one who can evaluate explainability and transparency. And explainability is its own kind of a research topic in AI. Frankly, I think as an investor, what I worry about is how important is that either to the value proposition to the end customer, to the problem you're solving, and number two, are there any regulatory issues associated with explainability and transparency in this space that we should know about and therefore guard against. And those are the things, at least as an investor, that we worry about. Beyond that, we actually are not the ones who think about it.
Very cool. So essentially, if it's important from a business
Yeah,
perspective,
exactly.
you care about it. If not,
Yeah.
then not. Awesome. Next is how does it feel to work in VC and be a part of the business, which could impact the world? I think,
I've
yeah,
already answered this question.
kind of covered. Yeah, yeah. Next is very interesting, right? Since coding is past you and being an IIT, and I wish you would have disclosed who you are asking this question. It's such an insightful question. I am sure you must have a pet project that you wanted to do that you never could. What were the hurdles you faced, and how should we, as relative youngsters, prioritize such projects in our life?
Wow,
Fantastic question.
this is a great question down the memory lane. But at IIT Delhi, I, along with another friend who Vidur knows actually quite well, and we partly got connected through him, in fact. We had just, in fact, the first course in AI had happened for our batch at IIT Delhi. Never before had it been done as a course. We were very intrigued about the idea of neural networks, and we decided to do a project in speech recognition. And that was my BTech project along with my friend, which you will laugh at it, but it could recognize up to 100 words, speaker dependent, and a discrete speech, not a continuous speech that we think about. And we demonstrate how you could use a PC, or you could operate a PC, what you used to call DOS commands at that point in time through speech. But I was so fascinated about speech recognition as a technology and AI that I applied for a PhD. And I was very keen to do a PhD at Carnegie Mellon. That was the best university. Unfortunately, I did not get admission at that point in time. Later on, I almost joined Microsoft's speech team when it was just starting. It had only 5 people at that point in time. But for a variety of different reasons, decided to come back to India. And I would say that speech AI has been a bit of an unfinished dream for me in that sense. But I'm also again, fascinated by how that area has evolved. If you look at the recent ChatGPT 4.0 demonstration, it's just mind-boggling as to where life has come on this front.
Awesome. And how should other, like, how should youngsters think about, such passion projects that they want to pursue, and like any learnings that you'd like to extrapolate?
Honestly, I'll say that most people will make more money in life than they need.
Hmm.
And very rarely or very few people, I think, get to work on things that they truly love. And if you truly love something, uh, please don't deprioritize it to be practical. Um, uh, uh,
Yeah.
pursue them. Life will get over before you realize.
No, awesome. That's very insightful. Thank you for sharing, Alok. Next is from Shruti. You just met her from CARPL. Uh, she is curious to know how AI is being integrated into your daily work at Stellaris. And again, very
Oh
cool.
boy, you are forcing me to accept that we are too backward. But jokes apart, Shruti, what we have actually someone working with us as an intern this summer, and we are trying to figure out how AI can be used in our work on a daily basis. So, for example, we are now, in fact, I took a lesson on how that application is being built today itself. Um, we evaluate a lot of different companies all the time. We do a lot of diligence, lots of interview notes, lots of discussions. Very often, we are trying to figure out, or we want to ask questions on things that we have done in the past, but don't even know where that sits. We are trying to build a tool internally where all this data gets ingested. It's only internal to us, but where we can ask questions about our portfolio companies, about our diligences in the past, things that we have learned, because we are also dealing with an information overload that every human is being subjected to on Earth. And that's one of the things, for example, that we are trying to utilize AI for. We're also building a tool internally where even with the few number of people that we have in the firm, we each one of us are connected to, I don't know, 20 to 30,000 people each. Very often we are constantly, if we are doing a diligence today, we're trying to figure out who do we reach out to. And strange as it may sound, LinkedIn has never provided us a tool where every employee of the firm's connections can be collectively seen and searched upon. And you can do semantic searches on top of it. So we are actually building something for that internally as well during this hour.
Oh, that is pretty cool. Which is so interesting, right? That for folks from the outside, uh, to know that the actual work that a VC fund does is a lot of, ruminating on the past, and, thinking about like learnings, and just figuring out who to call to figure out whether to make this investment or not. So pretty cool. We have one question in the chat, Alok, is from an entrepreneur, Abhishek. So Abhishek says we are building an AI-based solution that predicts early deterioration of the patient within first few hours of ICU admission at Deep Arogya AI. They're incubated at IIT Roorkee, got Nidhi EIR, I don't know, entrepreneur in residence, and are now going for clinical trials in the next few months. What is the right stage for such an organization to raise VC funds?
Um,
And I think this could be a more broader question,
yeah,
Alok. Uh,
Abhishek, I will give a selfish answer on this one, which is it's never too early to talk to investors, especially people like us. So if you're building something that you think has value, we would love to talk to you. And we like to be in touch with founders over their journey. So feel free to actually reach out to us.
awesome. No, I think that's a good takeaway for everyone. That it's never too soon to speak to a VC fund, right?
Yeah.
And get their thoughts. And I think last question, very appropriately, last question. Uh, how scary does the future seem to you when taking into account the rapid growth of AI?
It's a great question. And again, I'll give an honest answer to this and not a VC answer to this one. is that I am of the view that the pace at which AI is evolving is actually scary. I was meeting a friend of mine who actually coincidentally used to be my PhD roommate at UT Austin and led the entire search for Google, the entire engineering. And he was saying to me, I met him 3 weeks back. He said, "This is the advice I gave to my children." He said, "No matter what profession you are in, doesn't matter what profession you are, if you are not in the top 50% of your profession,
Yeah.
assume that you'll get eaten away, because the bottom 50% of every profession will get either eaten away or be highly impacted by it." And I think we are seeing it at a pace which is actually pretty scary. I do frankly worry about my kids are college going today as to by the time they come out, what they have learned in college, is it going to be relevant or not? And I think we as a humanity will need to answer some very fundamental questions, as if we look at the pace at which AI is evolving. But at least that's the camp that I lie in.
No, uh, again, going back to the matrix, I don't even call it the analogy anymore. I just say situation
Yeah.
because, it is a very plausible outcome that, folks, you look at it today, right? The amount of time we spend in front of screens,
Yeah.
looking at stuff that is actually determined by an algorithm,
Yeah.
right? We spend most of our time in front of screens looking at things we don't have any control over,
Yeah.
right? So, on that morbid note, thank you so much, Alok, for joining today. Thank you to everyone for joining today.